Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the Sovereign Woman Movement podcast, where it is our mission to help women reclaim their sovereignty from generational patterns of emotional pain, of karma, and trauma. It is an honor to be here today on this very beautiful day with one of our starting lineup guest speakers for the podcast, which I'm really, really excited to have here because she is going to just fill us with a wealth of knowledge of some of the holistic healing and holistic work that she also is involved in. So I'd like to introduce first, to get us going here, our guest today, Victoria Craig, and she is a multi-passionate and purpose-led woman who's been on a deeply spiritual journey of self-love, of self-acceptance, and healing. She's walked through the fire more times than she can count and turned her pain into purpose and has stepped into her soul's highest calling to become a feminine embodiment self-love coach. That is so beautiful. Plant medicines and also conscious connected breathwork facilitator. So, so beautiful. All relating to emotional and trauma release into these higher states of consciousness. It's through the feminine body wisdom work that she's done, nervous system regulation, subconscious reprogramming, and somatic embodiment practices like plant medicines also, that she takes women on a journey of sacred self-love and healing to help them tap into their feminine gifts, to reconnect with their bodies, and to awaken more passion, pleasure, and purpose in their life. She's the founder of the Soul Rising Plant Medicine, Breathwork, and Feminine Embodiment Retreats, a safe and trauma sensitive space for women to come together, heal, rise, and reclaim their feminine body and power. Welcome, Victoria. How are you today?
Thank you so much for having me. I've been really looking forward to this conversation. I'm doing well. I mean, I'm a little bit tired, if I'm honest. Didn't have the best night's sleep, but I've had a slow morning, just enjoying the sunshine, enjoying the birds. As I mentioned to you before, I live in Tulum, and it's a recent move, and I'm just living in, the jungle, but with all of the modern, creature comforts, which is really magical.
Oh, it sounds magical. So when I was reading your bio, I was so excited to talk to you because a lot of the things that you teach and you've been through resonate deeply personally, but also with the audience, with our community here at the Sovereign Women Movement. So I'd like to start by asking you, can you just share a little bit about your journey? What actually led you to specialize in the work that you're doing today?
Of course. So, as you shared in my bio, I've been through the fire more times than many. It really is my own kind of trauma and past pains it's from my own healing journey that kind of called me into this space and called me into helping other women heal in a holistic way. It's kind of short, to bring a long story short, I 9 years ago, I lost my mother very suddenly. At the same time, I was in a abusive relationship. At the same time, I found out I was pregnant, and in 6 weeks, I ended up leaving my fiance. My mother passed away. I went through a termination. From there on, and prior to that, I'd been competing in fitness and bikini and bodybuilding competitions, and I had eating disorders, body dysmorphia. There was a lot. My self-worth was really based on everything outside of myself and how I looked. And I also had a lot of debt at that point. And I ended up, I started my path to make changes, but it wasn't so much spiritual then. It was still very much in the masculine energy of like pushing, driving, forcing success. And I was working 5 jobs, I was in the corporate space, and then doing multiple other things as well to kind of clear debt and save to buy a house and do all of the things that, we're, I guess, conditions that society tells us this is the path that we should take. And I just got to this point where I was very unfulfilled and unhappy. And I decided to take a trip to India to do another yoga teacher training. And when I was there, I realized that my, home in the UK was not the right place for me. And it was this spiritual journey, this healing journey that I wanted to take. So I ended up moving to India. And then the pandemic happened, and I came back from the pandemic and back to the UK and had a very difficult time. I got quite unwell with severe autoimmune issues. I had alopecia, severe gastrointestinal issues, chronic fatigue, fat malabsorption, pelvic inflammatory disease, amenorrhea. My cycle stopped. migraine, you know, the list goes on. And then I just, again, it was the point, I was like, I can't stay here. And the only place that was open was Mexico that I could get into. So I booked a one-way ticket to Mexico just over 3 years ago, 3.5 years ago now. And that's when I really went into like deeper healing and the feminine embodiment, and also more into plant medicine. I had, prior to moving to India, I'd been to Peru, and I did my first plant medicine experience with ayahuasca. That was 5 years ago. And I just realized while I was here, there's a different way of living. And for us as women, we shine, we become magnetic when we are connected to our body, to our feminine body, to our cycle, and to ourselves. So, you know, it's been a long journey for me for healing. My life has changed in more ways than I could ever imagine. I do still have some flare-ups with autoimmune. You know, I have a sensitive body. I have to be very careful. But I really got to the point where I was able to create what I've always dreamed of, you know, and I'd always wanted to help people. And I had that in the back of my mind for years and years and years. And every new year it would be like, okay, I'm going to start a business. I'm going to do this. And, you know, I'd try for a couple of months and then give up, or, the fear of failure got the better of me. And then ultimately, you know, I mean, I work in the online space with women, embodiment, breath work, coaching. But then I had this deep calling for in-person work, and to be able to incorporate everything that has helped me on my journey. And that's where the Soul Rising Retreats was birthed, where we're working with plant medicine, ayahuasca and Cambo, feminine embodiment, nervous system regulation, womb healing, breath work, and a huge piece of it being sisterhood and connection. And they have just blossomed, and the transformation that we experience and witness in them is just incredible. And actually, one thing I did realize, and I've always said I brought, it's kind of all of the modalities, the tools, the resources that have really helped me on my healing journey together. But I actually realized in my own inner session I was having with my support recently that I actually put everything together that I wished I'd had in a container and never had. So I've worked with all of these things at different times and different modalities and with different people, but it was like, what I create, and we often do that. We create what we felt was missing for us, and that unconsciously that was done. It's just, it's not, as I'm sure you know yourself, this journey, the healing journey, the entrepreneurship journey, it's not an easy journey, but once you start, you can't go back. You know, once we are in purpose, there isn't another option for us.
Yeah, and the best teachers, especially as we enter into this new age of Aquarius, are those that have overcome what they're teaching. That's really no longer can you go learn from a university or learn from a teacher without you having experienced what it is you're trying to help others overcome. It's so interesting that these different modalities came to you. Is this something that you grew up around with, or was it more intuitively guided?
No, I did not grow up around any of this. I mean, I even remember when I first went to do ayahuasca, and it was my brother went absolutely nuts at me, And I also, when I first worked with psychedelic medicine, I didn't know anyone that it was. I mean, there's a lot more information and research around today, but then it was, and it's still taboo. But then it was very, very taboo. It's like you're going to do drugs. Yeah. So I always, the black sheep, it was intuitively led. And that's really what my whole journey has been, is following my intuition. Now, I'm not going to say like I've done it all the time, because, I've got those lessons that come up for it. We all get them. When we don't follow our intuition, it doesn't go well. But yes, through my own healing and through this journey, it's just been, what have I felt called to, and also what opportunities have presented, because I think the right things, the right teachers, the right people, they come up when we're ready.
So agree. I so agree with that, especially when it comes to plant medicine. It's almost like she calls you instead of you calling her.
Oh yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that's it. I didn't know anything about ayahuasca before I went on a retreat. But I kept hearing ayahuasca, like maybe on a podcast, or I even remember going on a date with this guy, and he really wanted to do ayahuasca, and it just suddenly started to come into my space, and I just followed that.
Do you feel that the plant medicine work, specifically with ayahuasca, do you feel that that was like a pivotal moment in the healing journey? Do you feel like it was like closing or a beginning point of the healing journey? What did it do for you?
It was a beginning point for me. I mean, it was very early on in my healing journey. I still, I hadn't yet left the UK. I just was blown away by how much I was able to work through and heal in, it felt like I just had 10 years of therapy in 1 week. Yeah, and I think one of my biggest takeaways from the first time I worked with ayahuasca was I realized that I had no boundaries in my life, and I was letting people, companies walk all over me. And the first thing I did when I got home was start to create boundaries. And I do believe boundaries for us as women, it's like an ongoing, we think we've got there and then we realize, okay, maybe there's some more. But that would be one of the biggest takeaways. And it was also just this, with ayahuasca, the way she shows you your worth. It's that I never felt that much love for myself before in my whole life.
Yeah. So relatable, so relatable. What part of Peru did you go to?
The Amazon jungle.
Oh, you did right into that jungle, yeah.
Yeah, and then I was there last year as well for 6 weeks working with my teachers. I've got Shipibo Maestro's teachers over there that supported me on my journey to, have worked with ayahuasca myself. And I love the Amazon. Say about our retreats, I love the jungle. I just love the jungle, the jungle in Mexico as well. Just that time out.
Yeah.
Even if you didn't have the plant medicine and the embodiment pattern, all of the other things, it's that time out disconnecting in nature is so incredibly healing. It's just amazing for our nervous system, for our mind and our body.
I agree. Yes, definitely, for sure. And I'm so glad that you mentioned that it really was the beginning of your journey, because I think a lot of people, we are obviously going through a psychedelic renaissance, and a lot of people think that that's like the ultimate solution, and then they're really let down when they realize that it is the beginning. And guess what? There's a lot of integration that needs to occur.
Huge
What were
piece of
some of the things that you were doing to help you integrate the experience?
I mean, if I'm honest, after my first ayahuasca experience in Peru, I was just kind of winging it, trying to figure it out myself, because there was no integration support, which is, something that we have in the Soul Rising retreats, because I do now understand, there's parts of ayahuasca journeys that I had done back then that I really did embody some of the lessons and the learnings. If I hadn't done that retreat, I'm not sure I would have left the UK and gone to move to India and then do, because it came through to me there very clearly that, I'd had this is what I wanted to do, but I hadn't set anything in motion. And after that, I did, I started to take the actions. I started to create boundaries. But what we, like you say, people often think, okay, I'm going to go and do this and I'm going to be healed. And you can heal so much. One of the biggest pieces for me as well, back then, was the emotional healing. I'm British. We are, I mean, most of us are suppressed anyway, but the British, it's like, okay, an emotion comes up, get a shovel, dig a hole, put your emotions in there, and then run as far away as possible. We're very, very shut down. I was very disconnected from my emotions, and being able to, ayahuasca taught me that it was safe to feel again, because she takes you into your emotions, whether it's the grief, the shame, the fear, the sadness. You might be crying, but it's really sacred in allowing yourself to go there. And and I got this realization it's actually safe. Like, I'm not going to die if I go there. I'm not going to get stuck in this hole and never come back out of it. So that's one of the biggest pieces. But we have to continue integrating. There's like an afterglow after we work with psychedelics often, you know, where it's like, okay, I've released so much of this stuff and this stagnant energy. Maybe I've healed some trauma. I am kind of glowing, you know, my eyes are brighter, my skin's brighter, I feel lighter in my energy and in my body, but without proper integration. And for me, it's somatic integration. It's really working on nervous system, because we could get real deep understanding, clarity, downloads. How do I then calibrate my nervous system to be able to embody that? So I could be on a high of, I love myself and I'm worthy of this. But if for 35 years I haven't felt that way, my nervous system still needs to be calibrated to those new beliefs. And this is where as well I'm actually adding in, as of our next retreat, I'm going to start doing nervous system and somatic work with them prior to coming into the retreat. For a month before, while they prepare for the retreat, because if someone comes in incredibly dysregulated and not feeling safe in their body, then sitting with a powerful medicine like ayahuasca, how are they going to be able to integrate and regulate through that experience once they go back into normal life? And especially for those of us that have got trauma in our background, it's through medicines we can have traumatic imprints come up, and it's obviously for us to be able to heal and to move through, but that doesn't always happen in one night. And for example, with me as well, I had repressed sexual trauma. And that came up for me actually through a breathwork journey that came through for me. And I'm lucky I have the tools, the practices, the knowledges, the support to be able to integrate, to be able to move through any imprints that arise and that show up. But I feel it's, as a facilitator, it's so important that we want them to get the best possible, have the best possible experiences and results. So that includes before and aftercare.
Got it. Yeah, that's so crucial, and I'm so glad that you addressed that. So let's go back to what you said about somatic integration and somatic healing. That is a word that is being used more and more in today's day and age, but I still believe it's fairly new to the mainstream media, mainstream people. How would you describe somatic healing and somatic integration? What does that actually mean?
So somatic healing for me is really working with the body, working with the body and working with the nervous system, and being able to connect with the feelings, the sensations, the emotions that are arising within our body. So we can be working with breath, we can be working with movement, we can be working with sound, different ways. There's lots of different tools and practices, and it's not just about doing practices every day. It's about having that connection to self, to the body. So when something comes up, we're able to regulate. You know, when triggers arise, what happens when a trigger arises for us? It starts in the body. It doesn't start in our mind, which often we think. And we're trying to just work. We have to incorporate the mind and mindset into our practices as well. But we're often just trying to change things on a mental level, or understand or figure things out on a logical level. But it's the body that speaks first. So if I get triggered, there's a sensation that comes up. There's a feeling that comes up in my body. So that might be a gut feeling. That might be a tightness in my chest. That might be my breath is becoming fast and shallow. There's an emotion with that. So is that fear? Is that shame? And then the thoughts come. So we want to, for me, it's really starting to understand the language of our body and using these somatic based approaches to really calm, to regulate ourselves.
Yeah.
So we're not in a state of constant dysregulation, or we're, hyper or hypo. It's how do we bring ourselves back into balance? And it's honestly, I think it's a lifelong journey,
Yep.
especially if you've experienced trauma, and we all have experienced trauma of some level. Whether it's big T traumas or little T traumas, but it's an ongoing journey for us to find balance. I think we're always striving for balance, right? And often we're looking for that balance outside of ourselves. Well, how do I find that internal balance? Because everything outside of me is going to reflect back what's happening inside.
Oh, yeah. Oh, right on. That's so beautifully said. So, with your journey, because what you described, it's something that a lot of women are feeling or have gone through in your own personal quest and what you've seen with your clients. How does generational patterns play into this? Were you able to become aware of a repeating pattern, or do you believe it was something that was generated through your own life experience only?
I think there's both, So, for example, with me, actually, I speak with many women. Let's speak about sexual trauma
Yeah.
to begin with. Is we see this, and we see it a lot through ceremony as well. But there is a pattern. There's been generations of sexual trauma. For me personally, I mean, my mother's not here anymore, so I can't have these conversations with her. And we didn't have that kind of relationship. My mum she's beautiful, but not very open about maybe things that had happened to her, or through her family line, or through her ancestral line. But I've seen through journeys, I was like, it didn't start with me. Yeah. So, I also recently, in our last retreat, we had a woman in really beautiful soul who one of her journeys was just clearing and clearing and clearing ancestral grief.
Oh, man.
And it was grief and pain and suffering, and it was a challenging experience for her. But she was able to see through this all of the patterns that were showing up in her life, and actually she'd come not just for herself. She had young children, and she wanted to be the one that breaks the pattern, so it's not passed on to her daughters.
Yeah. Yeah. That's exactly what happened with me with plant medicine. That's when I realized that these were patterns, that this is not something that I started with me, but that it would end with me if I chose to heal myself. And I think sexual trauma is one of the most common ones because it's not something that's easily spoken about, what you just said. It's not like mom is going to talk to you about what happened. The thing she wants is for you never to go through what she went through, and speaking on it, because a lot of the times, with sexual trauma, it is someone within the family that is also the perpetrator, that these things get tucked under the rug. They're not able to be expressed and acknowledged, which then, like you mentioned, then we have these somatic problems, these issues with the body responding to those very difficult traumatic things to even speak about. So it does take someone like you, a cycle breaker, who says, you know what, I'm going to focus on actually doing something about it, which I really appreciate that you shared the journey, and you have shared with us that it isn't all love and light, that it is facing emotions that your ancestors could not face. And here we are today. So what part of a lot of the work that we do, which a lot of people either don't agree with or are triggered by, but one of the things that we do with generational healing, I know in my community, is the work of forgiveness. What's your opinion on forgiveness, and is it something that you felt that you needed to integrate, or did it just happen naturally, or do you feel that it's just something that you haven't really even touched on?
I personally, I feel forgiveness is a journey, and I completely understand when people don't agree with it, because they're like, well, this awful thing happened to me. These people, this person, or these people maybe did this to me. Why would I ever forgive? For me,
Right.
forgiveness is it's for yourself. It's not for the other person or other people involved. If you have been through something incredibly painful and traumatic, it's not, because what we're doing when we're not forgiving, we're obviously in a state of maybe there's anger that's not been dealt with, there's resentment, and all that's doing is we're holding on to that energy, and that can be creating chaos in our own body, mind, and nervous system. So really, when I come to forgiveness, it's forgiveness is for you, it's not for the other people. And I think this is something that people can struggle with, is I like to try, and I'm going to say try because I haven't, it's often taken me a lot of time to get there, but compassion, because
Yeah.
now, knowing what I know now, I know. So, for example, I have sexual trauma. I think what happened in that person's childhood, what happened to them, what did they experience to make them go and do that? It's because trauma gets passed down, and often, a lot through families, a lot through parents. If someone's had an abusive childhood, and this is one thing I'm, really grateful for, that, I had wonderful parents, but if someone's been brought up in an abusive environment, it's learned behavior. So it can be very natural for them to become the abuser if they don't have the awareness or the support, the tools and resources to choose differently.
Right. Yeah. And that's so important because it shifts the perception of this person did something because there's something wrong with me, versus you're not condoning, you're realizing that this person acted out of their level of consciousness, out of their level of pain.
Yeah.
And that can be very liberating, because I really do believe that the traumatic experience we experience, whether it was as a child or an adult, we blame ourselves. We say to ourselves, what could we have done differently? Why didn't I speak up? Why was I wearing that? Why was I doing that? And that's what's so crucial in understanding. And I'm so glad that you said that, for some people it is triggering, because it is. But the part about that is that those people that are triggered through it, what I've noticed is that they haven't been given the space to feel all of the anger, all the emotions that do rise from these very traumatic experiences.
And without being able to, because when we experience trauma as well, that we go into your fight or flight part of the nervous system. It's like fight or I flee. Obviously we've got the other responses as well of freeze and fawn. We shut down, we freeze, and that our body priority is to survive.
Yep.
So the emotional piece is too overwhelming for the body and the nervous system, and that's where it gets pushed down. That energy gets stored in the body, and when we've experienced, when we've experienced trauma, we've had our boundaries crossed.
Yeah.
So we've not been able to speak up, to fight back, to to express ourselves. So before we even tap into forgiveness, if that's something that you want to do, we have to tap into those emotions, like you say, rage, anger, grief, sadness, shame, is allowing ourselves in a safe container, in a safe space. And I really feel like this should be through supported work. I'm even going through my own transition at the moment, where there's something that's trying to be unearthed within me, and I know I don't want to go there alone. So I'm doing it in a container where I can be held in that, and because the emotional piece can feel overwhelming and very scary.
Absolutely.
And we often think, I don't want to relive that experience. And I think this is the beauty of one of the things I love about plant medicine and really any practice. We don't have to relive to heal.
Absolutely.
We don't have to relive to release.
Beautiful.
Yeah. And if I'm feeling the emotions from an experience, it doesn't mean I have to be back in that experience.
Correct. I love that. That's so beautiful. So aligning with that, what does the nervous system, because we keep talking about the nervous system, have to do with all of this? What does a regulated nervous system look like versus a non-regulated nervous system? or dysregulated nervous system, and how does our nervous system become dysregulated?
So unresolved, unhealed trauma, suppressed emotions, all of these can dysregulate our nervous system. And like I was just saying before, like if we experience trauma, the body's its survival, that's its number one goal. The emotions at the time are too overwhelming, they can get pushed away. We don't have the tools, resources, and support to do the healing and to do the releasing afterwards. And that energy gets stored within the body. So if you look at a dog, for example, a dog's been chased by a tiger, obviously the sympathetic nervous system switches on. Okay, this is cortisol and adrenaline will start to flood the body. If they're continuously flooding the body, then that's going to create inflammation in the body. But for us to survive, that's what's going to give us the energy to fight or to run away, to flee. The dog's going to run away. It's not going to take on a tiger. The first thing it does when it gets to safety is it shakes its whole body. It's resetting its nervous system. It's discharging that energy. It's completing the trauma cycle. So this is something that we can do with medicines and somatic embodiment work too. Happen if we have done the healing, we can solicit to happen in our life that create more dysregulation. So we might feel that we're not enough, so we're constantly pushing and striving. For me, I was working 5 jobs. I wasn't sleeping properly. I was training and competing in competitions. I was exercising all of the time, so I was pushing my body to that burnout. As burnout, exhaustion, fatigue, that's unexplained, that is a sign of a dysregulated nervous system. Maybe not being disconnected to your cycle, so our monthly cycle. We have certain rhythms throughout the cycle. If maybe you have extremely heavy cycles, bad PMS, and you find that your energy is off throughout the month and it's not linked to our feminine body clock, that's going to dysregulate the nervous system. Stomach issues, gastrointestinal issues, that's often a sign of a dysregulated nervous system. Most physical ailments or symptoms that show up in the body. Finding yourself very ungrounded, living in your head, the monkey mind, that's sign of a dysregulated nervous system as well. A regulated nervous system is when we're able to switch on that parasympathetic part of the nervous system, so the part that tells us we're safe. It's okay for me to rest. It's okay for me to relax. It's that calm and peaceful state. Now, we need balance between the two, because the sympathetic can drive us to get stuff done as well, right? If we're only just in parasympathetic, we're not going to move anywhere. So it's really about being able to balance them out. But what happens is most people are almost in a chronic sympathetic state. Doing the pushing, the driving, the monkey mind, I said lots of different symptoms that show up. But people are, and especially women, we're trying to be everything for everyone, and pushing ourselves to burnout, and that shows up as a dysregulated nervous system, which over time, because it's constant, these hormones, the cortisol and adrenaline, they're going to create inflammation in our body, which then is going to be affecting our mental, our physical, and our emotional health.
Oh wow, yeah, beautifully described. That's amazing. We don't have to be graduate from doctor's school or Harvard to understand the nervous system and to understand what it's doing. I really do believe that the future of medicine is going to be focused specifically on the nervous system because of all the things that are associated. The other thing, you described a dysregulated nervous system. You described your own journey, and it sounds like, and maybe this is, and I'd like for you to share more about this. Your work is about feminine embodiment, and it sounds like there was like an over abuse of the masculine energy, which, let me raise my hand and tell you, I've been there, done that. Exactly what led me to my healing journey. Do you believe that a lot of women are suffering through that abuse of masculinity? And how does that show up? And what does feminine embodiment mean to you, or how do you help women connect with that?
Yeah, it's very common in society today because, like I say, women are trying to be everything for everyone. So, that's I like to look at it as like the pushing the thought. And when we say obviously we need masculine, we all need masculine and feminine energy, and there's kind of healthy masculine energy. And one of the grounded, that's a masculine quality. So that's a really good quality for us to be able to have and to embody. But there's also, competition, pushing, driving. So I see a lot of women, and they are, let's say, well, I've got to be exercising, I've got to get up, I've got to go to the gym, I've got to eat this way, then I'm going to go to work and I'm working late, or maybe I'm coming home, then I need to do dinner for the kids. And it's just pushing like non-stop. So it's not allowing the body to have any time to rest, to be in that parasympathetic, the feminine energy is the being, the masculine is the doing. So for me, feminine embodiment really is being connected to the feminine body. That's being able to live in our body rather than in our mind, because our power is not in our logical mind. It's in our body. So for me, the biggest pieces around the feminine is being able to connect with our emotions, because our emotions are living in our body as well. Our emotions, our intuition, and our cycle. There's many things, there's many qualities around the feminine, but for me, those are the key ones. That once we connect with those, our lives change. We look at a woman's body clock, and this is another thing that leads to burnout. We try and get small men. Yeah, we're not small men. We don't have a day and night body clock. We have a full season in the month. A man's energy and the way they shop is very stable day in and day out. Whereas we have our hormones are changing, our energy levels are changing throughout the month. An example would be for women, around their bleed. Day one of the bleed really is an important day for us to just rest. Our body is expending more through the releasing process of the blood. But you'll see lots of women like they're training the same way, pushing themselves the whole way through the cycle. And that's a key example. We have that different energy often, like the back end of the luteal phase, coming into our cycle, when it's time to start resting. Maybe not just social, maybe at work I'll do more back end stuff, like in meetings and presentations and on social media. And then we'll go into the follicular phase, where our energy is going to start to increase, going to start to be a little bit more social. This is maybe where we're going to start to manifest a little bit more. We're going to starting to take action on the things that we want to achieve. We might be a bit more social and outward in our work environment, on social media, with our friends. Get into our inner center during the ovulation. Energies at its highest. Sex drive is at its highest. We have this kind of curve, this wave that's different to what man experiences. But we weren't taught about our bodies. We weren't taught about our cycles, other than the basics, and that we have hormones, we bleed. These are tampons, these are sanitary towels. And often women aren't taught much more than that. And then there's also shame around the cycle. I remember I used to say, oh my God, I hate my cycle. Like, why do I even have this? Like, and I put that into the universe, and then my cycle stopped. I had so much shit. I was like, it was just I'm like, this is never coming at a good time.
Yep. Yeah, I see that. And it's a buildup of the programming that has come through society ever since, in the 50s or whenever it happened with the feminist movement, where I heard from several stories that it was actually, done on purpose to get women into the work field, right? Because we needed more workers. But it is also, think about what it did to you as a mother. Now you have all these responsibilities, and you have to become a mother. So I believe probably what happened was there was less nurturing, that divine feminine from mothers, which then created a buildup of who we are now as women, struggling so deeply with being able to connect to that aspect of who we are. And it's funny because a lot of these high achieving women, like they want to be productive. They want to get stuff done because they don't want to be with their emotions. I was there, believe me. But by the
Yeah.
same token, they don't realize that productivity is actually taking care of your mental health first, because that's what's going to get you more productive. It's going to take care of your hormones. It's going to take care of your relationship issues, which then is going to allow you to really have all this energy to do the things that you need to get done. I just feel that there's been this program of like, you're not worthy enough, so you got to really prove to the world. You got to
Yeah.
get the approval of, I heard recently that like surgeon doctors are the ones that struggle the most with suicide. And they're the ones that struggle the most also with connection with their parents. So it is something that I feel so much of humanity and especially women are struggling with. But by the same token, I don't know about you. What do you think? Because I also feel that a lot of women are waking up and saying, that idea that I was sold to be this boss babe bitch or whatever they call themselves, like that is not what I want for my life. Like I want to be a nurturing woman and I want to be a nurturing mother. I feel like there is a big awakening to that right now. Do you see that at all?
There is a massive awakening. Like the feminine is rising now. I mean, I look back a few years ago, like the feminine, like I wouldn't have known anything about it. I didn't hear anything about it, but now, yeah, there is a big awakening, and I think as well, and it's sad to say, and I've done it myself, obviously to a severe place where I've had very serious autoimmune, and like I say, I'm still healing on that healing journey, because once you go there, it takes a very long time to bring the body fully back into balance. But a lot of women, they get to burn out,
Mhm.
and that's when they start to make the shifts, because they realize they can't live,
Yeah.
they can't continue living the way they are.
Right. Yeah, but 1,000%. It's like you don't have a choice anymore once you get to that point, to the burnout. You have to do something about it. And that's what hopefully more women listening to this podcast episode, especially, will not wait for that. They will start to do the preventive healing medicines or the preventive healing path to actually prevent that, because we can prevent that. And coming out of a burnout is not easy, as I'm sure you have experienced. So specifically with the work that you've been doing, how have you witnessed this empowerment of women through the healing process in your own practice? What have you seen? I know you shared with me a bit of a story of someone coming into your retreat centers. Like what happens to them that reveals to you that, hey, there was a pivot, there was a shift. These practices actually helped this woman. What did it look like for you?
Oh, I mean, there's many things. We see a lot just in the retreat in itself, because we witness the shifts happen. We witness them standing differently, showing up differently, speaking differently, bigger smiles on their faces, more relaxed, more confident, deeper connection, and there's a huge amount of vulnerability in these spaces. So we witness it in the retreats, and obviously I support the women with integration afterwards, and I stay in touch with pretty much everyone I work with. I'll always check in and see how they are. And we've had women that have changed careers if it wasn't working for them. They've taken a completely different path. I've had women leave abusive relationships. There's been just even seeing women, maybe not in such a big scale as like leaving a relationship or changing career or job, but just nourishing themselves more, showing up for themselves in a different way, taking time out to pour into themselves and to choose themselves first before then, pouring into others. I mean, I've seen women that have been very disconnected and disassociated from themselves and from their body, like being able to say, and still to this point, I had one of the women who actually, she was with us last August, and I think she's going to come back this August as well. And she messaged me and she said, because I've made more progress in my life and I've shown up for myself more in my life in the last 6 months than I have in my whole life.
Wow.
You
That's
know?
That's amazing. It's these small things that add up to the big things. So does your work look like? Is it a 5-day retreat that you host, or what does it actually look like?
So it's a 7-day retreat in Mexico, in the jungle of Mexico. And we have 3 ayahuasca ceremonies, 1 Kambo ceremony, Kambo being, keep it very short, but it's often people look at it as a big physical detox of the body, which it is, but it also can work with them very heavily with the emotional body. Kambo is not a psychedelic; it is a psychoactive medicine. So we have 1 Kambo ceremony supporting medicines of Rape and Sananga. Sananga is an eye drop, which really can help with our vision, can help connect with visions throughout journeys, but also our eye health, and can help with opening or decalcifying the pineal gland. Rape is a sacred tobacco. We use like a snuff. It gets blown up the nose. Again, it's not psychedelic, but psychoactive. And you can use rape for grounding. You can journey with rape. You can move through emotions. Another really beautiful medicine. We then also we have a womb healing workshop. So we're really connecting with the womb space, and we go through that. We go through the cyclical living and understanding our cycles. We also work a lot when we're with the womb work with shame. What have we been holding on to? And I'll say it's heartbreaking, but incredible at the same time, because we hear things being shared, and then there's lots of other women that say me too. And we've realized we've held on to these things and not spoken into them, and just speaking into them is a release in itself, and realizing you're not alone. That's huge. We work with embodiment practices. We have daily yoga, daily yoga and embodiment practices. We go deeply into the nervous system and how tools to self-regulate and to self-soothe. We have a temescal ceremony as well, and a day out in a cenote with a zip line. So we have a play day as well. I think that's it. And then obviously we have integration support post retreat as well.
That sounds absolutely wonderful. It really does feel that you touched on everything in the retreat. Are these held in Tulum?
In Puerto Morelos, so it's about just over an hour from here. A little bit closer to Cancun Airport than Tulum is. So yeah.
Got it. Okay, and we'll get all your info too here. This has been so wonderful. I have so many more questions, but we're running out of time, obviously. But one thing that I'd like to ask you before we close is, what does the word sovereignty mean to you?
Oh, sovereignty. To me, it's living my truth. Living my truth and being authentic to myself. And I mean, I see the journey of authenticity as a journey, like we think we're there, and then there's like another level, because we're growing and we're evolving. But for me, it's living my truth and living in my body and being authentic to me.
It's so beautiful. Well, you're definitely doing that. And I want to thank you so much for the beautiful work that you're bringing to the world. So tell us more. How do we get a hold of you? Where's the website? When's the next retreat? Like, how do we do this?
My website is www.iamvictoriacraig. Craig spelled like the boy's name.com. On the website, you'll see the retreat page as well. We've got a page for the Soul Rising Retreat with all of the information on there. And then you can apply through the website. What happens once you apply, you fill out the application form, you'll have an onboarding call with me where we'll go a little bit deeper into it. One, we connect. I want anyone that comes into our space, I want them to get to know me if they don't already. I want them to feel that myself and my team are the right team of facilitators to take them through this experience. Obviously, I have the opportunity to answer any questions that anyone has arising around the retreats, and I just go a little bit more into what you can experience, and especially what we can experience through medicine journeys. So that's my website and applying for the retreat. But also my Instagram is where I share kind of most of my content, and we've got so many lives on there as well around the retreats, around working with plant medicine too, what you can expect, what you can experience, and that my handle is I am Victoria Craig, so similar to my website. Those are the best places to connect with me. If you connect with me on Instagram, drop me a message and just say hello. I love to, be able to that's one thing I love about Instagram is being able to connect with people all over the world. But we have our next retreat in August, which is the 15th to the 22nd of August.
Oh,
So
wonderful.
it's coming up, and we've still got a few spots left for that one. It's filling up
Wonderful.
quickly. We do have an early bird offer as well on, so you can save $500 if you sign up or apply in April.
Okay. So typically the retreat will just cover everything and then people just have to pay for like their flight or whatever.
Yeah, so everything that I've spoken to you about is included in the retreat, and they just need to pay for their flight to and from Mexico. We do ask, actually, we encourage everyone to fly out a day early because and stay in the Hilton Garden Inn hotel in Cancun Airport. Because we pick you up quite early in the morning at like 10:30, 11, so that we get the most of that first day. And obviously we have had in the past where, people's flights have been delayed or, even cancelled on occasions. And if they're coming out the night before, there's never been a problem.
Got it. Got it. Well, I want to say, I did a lot of research on centers and plant medicine. And when I was first journeying in 2015, and since then, once you experience the medicine, you like the teachers come, the people come, and you get to learn meet a lot of these people that are in this circle that is actually not that big. And I just want to say that your approach, your heart center, your energy is so pure and beautiful. It comes off in a way that you really are there to help and assist others. And the fact that you had to do this healing work yourself first just shows how prepared you are to continue to do this work. So I just want to thank you for all the work that you're doing in this world and for the help that you're bringing, especially to
Thank you
women.
so much.
Absolutely. It's been an honor to have you here on our
That
guest
really,
survey. Any last words you'd like to say before we close for today?
I think a message to anyone that is maybe feeling challenged at the moment, just want to remind you that you're not alone. And I know sometimes we can really feel like we're alone, but we're never alone. And it's always okay to reach out for support. And for women especially, it's like you get to be supported, you get to be seen, held, loved, accepted in your light and in your dark, in your pain and in your magic. That is available for all of us, but often we have these deep rooted feelings of unworthiness, or we have to do it alone, and that having to do it alone can be a really, really detrimental spiral. So you're not alone, and reach out for support, whoever or whatever that looks like for you, but you deserve to be supported.
Thank you. Wise words, definitely to close. I want to thank you so much, Victoria, for being here. I will make sure that all of your links and handles are in the description here in our podcast. So make sure you follow her, connect with her. I love that she does the pre-interviews too, to really get a feeling of what it is that you're moving into. So thank you from the bottom of my heart, and thank you all of you for joining us on the Sovereign Women Movement podcast. It's been a profound honor to share this space with all of you and our incredible guests. And as we continue to explore these pathways to deep healing and spiritual connection, I just want us all to remember that every step we take on this journey not only enriches our own life, but also the generations before and after us. For more inspiration and to continue to reclaim your sovereignty, make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and share with your communities. Keep reclaiming your sovereignty. Remember who you are. Thank you for you. Thank you, Victoria. We'll see you.
Thank you so much.